Hello, welcome to iLongarmQuilt. I'm Karen, a national educator for Handy Quilter, and today I'm going to show you how I quilted and attached binding all on the long arm. So for the planning, first of all, we will go to the quilt pattern. Found it on Etsy. Really like the look of a falling triangle. And this is baby size, but I had it increased so that it was 97 wide, 112 long. So there could be a pillow tuck at the top. And I'll have these links in the description below. For the batting, I chose Quilter's Dream 100% cotton select weight, which is their mid-loft, and white because there's so much white in the background of this quilt. Superior threads, I chose Omni bright white for the top, which I love. It's just a beautiful thread. It lays very nicely. For the bobbin, I chose So Fine. It's a 50 weight, white again. There's less lint, and the bobbin will last longer. For the pattern, it's from Urban Elements called Overlapping Crop Circles, and I'll show you how I set up the sizing in a moment. I'm going to be stitching on my Handy Quilter Infinity with Pro Stitcher, and I will show you how I planned the quilt in Pro Stitcher Designer. You do not have to have purchased Pro Stitcher in order to get Pro Stitcher Designer. Check with your local retailer, and perchance they might have a coupon for you. But you can do all your planning in Designer and then go to your computerized system. So this is a backdrop of the quilt top. It's just the baby version. It's just a section of it, but it'll work just fine. So it's 48 by 48. This pattern over here that I've created is 8-inch. And this pattern on this side, the red, is 9-inch. And because I cannot really tell that much of a difference, I'm going with the larger because I know the person receiving this quilt likes the quilting larger and looser. So we're going to choose 9-inch, and we are going to plan it like this. So now we will go over to Pro Stitcher, and I'll show you how I planned this quilt at the machine. I'm in simulator mode, so my crosshairs are green. Yours will be orange. I move my machine, and this represents my needle, to the top left corner of the quilt. I'll click to corner. Then I'll move it down to the right side as far as I can on the edge of the quilt. Click to corner again. At the machine, here on the right, it'll show you your area. At the machine, this will show 97 because that's how wide my quilt is. I will put in the height, which is 112. And then at the bottom, I will refresh by clicking on the house, and that shows my whole area in view. I just moved my crosshairs up and out of the way. Now I'm going to choose my design in File, Design, Open, Overlapping Crop Circles. I'm going to modify the size, resize it. Over in the right sidebar, I'll click Lock Aspect Ratio, and the height I will change to 9. I do baseline it when I resize a pattern that I'm going to repeat. Now I click Repeat. In the right sidebar, I click Fill. I like to plan off the edge. So in horizontal, I'm going to add one more pattern, and that got my start and stop off the edge. Vertical, I want to close that gap. So over in the sidebar on the left, I'm going to click Zoom, going to zoom in. Then on the right, make sure vertical is clicked, and I'm going to close that gap until I like the way that it looks. That looks good. So I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to add a few more vertical rows to go off the edge. Now I'm going to baseline and save. I like to save mine as workspace. And I'm going to click current. I always save over top of what I'm currently working on. And then I'm going to modify and crop those outside edges because I like to plan off the edge. I don't like to quilt off the edge. So in the ribbon, in the tab, modify, in the ribbon, crop, in the right sidebar, outside, and close those edges. Now I'm ready to quilt. And if I were at my machine, I would click Pro Stitcher, Quilt, and Run. And we will now go down to the machine.
Now I just go to Pro Stitcher tab, Quilt. I make sure all of these features are turned on. My start and end point, those are securing stitches, and I want it to pull up my bobbin thread, go to the side, and let me pull up my bobbin thread before it begins. I am going to make sure my stitch length over here under machine, this little icon at the top, the bar at the top, is my machine settings. I want to make sure that my machine settings are at 12 inches. I use precision needle up when I'm in Pro Stitcher. Now I get my machine close to where I'm going before I click run. That's just personal preference. The machine will take off and it'll do it for you. I just like to get close. And that is very slow. Not sure what I was doing before, but I'm going to make this 45 and 65. 45 acceleration, speed at 65, and the infinity goes very fast, so we will mute during this time frame. So the first thing that I do is I do cancel out of this. There is an easy way to drag and drop not canceling out of this, and I'll show you that in a later video. But for now, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to sink my needle into a place that is above the next row that I'm going to quilt. So here's the row that I quilted. I had a thread break. And so I'm going to make sure I'm above the next row, which are these little swirls right in here. So I'm making sure I'm above those. And because I've got an infinity and it's a heavy machine, I put a piece of tape there, sink my needle in to make a hole in the tape. I'll leave the tape there while I drag and drop. Now I'm going to click drag here on the side of the machine, and I'm going to pull up my needle, and when I do, you'll see that it's dragging the pattern up, and now I will just I will advance, and this tape will go up to meet somewhat the needle. Okay, I've advanced, and I've made sure for this last row that my machine clears and is able to stitch well beyond the bottom of the quilt. Then I go back up to the piece of tape
and I hover. You've got a laser light on your machine, so I hover right over the hole that I put previously, put my needle right in it, so I know I'm in the same place, and now I come up and I click drop. So now my last row is ready to prepare for. Now what I do is I come to the top and I'm going to multi-point the area for the last row. So I make sure I'm in the area tab so that my diamond button will work for multi-point. I'm going to come right along the very edge. I stay within an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch so that I don't stitch off the edge, but I stitch right to the edge. So I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread, start stitching while I hit that multi-point. So now I have created a multi-point area around the very bottom row of my quilt, this bottom section that needs to be quilted. I am going to crop the outside and baseline. So first I will go to the Modify tab, crop in the ribbon, click outside and close the edges so I don't have all those stops and starts, and I'm going to baseline it. Now I need to change my start point. It's currently up here at the top. I need to move it down to this row. I'm currently with my needle at the bottom of the last row that I stitched. And so I can tell that this start point, whoops, there, this start point would stitch this row. Let me refresh that. This start point, whoops, sorry, camera's right in my way. This start point would stitch this row, so I need to move it down one start point. So I will do that by going to the Pro Stitcher tab, click New Start End, go to the right side under Start. I will go down here to the bottom. It will jump to the next start point if I push this arrow on the bottom right there. And it did. It bumped it to that next start point. And now I'm going to move the machine over close and run and stitch the last 2 rows. This queen triangle quilt turned out just beautifully, and I think they're going to love it. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.